want to start this video off by saying I have made a Genshin critique video before on my other channel. It's just that well, first of all, it was kind of shit, and well, yeah, it was just shit. I recently watched another Genshin video criticizing the game, and I don't remember the exact contents of the video. All I remember is disagreeing with a lot of the points the guy made, or thinking he could have said more. I'm not gonna say what the channel was or what the video was, because you know, it doesn't really matter. Just that watching that video made me realize that there's really not much Genshin criticism videos out there. And the ones that are out there are usually the ones that are addressing the wrong issues, or what I believe to be the wrong issues. So I made this. I remade my old Genshin video. So just so I don't come off as too negative, because I do like Genshin as a game. I play it to relax. I'll just say that the things I do like about Genshin are things I even love about Genshin. So first of all, the fucking character designs. I love almost every character in Genshin. I love almost every one of them. I think at the very least they all look unique. That's very hard to do when you have as many characters as Genshin. Very detailed, all that good stuff. Speaking of characters, Mona, Shanling, Noel, Ganyu, Yoimiya. What else? The soundtrack. One of the best soundtracks I've ever heard in any fucking video game. I play a lot of fucking video games. I got like 200 games on my Steam library. And that's not counting the ones I have back when I used to be a fucking console gamer. Or back when I was forced to use a console while my PC was broken. The animations, as a guy that animates, I do think Genshin has very well done animation. It's fucking great. Especially during like the special cutscenes, where you get to see like I don't know how to say it. It's like animation that isn't reused assets, basically. So it is like a special cutscene. For example, the Lumine and Ether fight. That shit was fucking great. The Albedo, Amber, Lumine, or Traveler, whichever you pick, versus the Whopper Flower. That shit was fucking amazing. And of course, I gotta mention that one time Ningguang dropped her fucking building on top of that stupid serpent. That shit was fucking crazy. It was great. The voice acting, really good. Exploration is really fun. The world is like bright, lively. It's easy to get attached to the world of Genshin. You know, it's just like, if Genshin fucking shut down one day, I would be very upset. Because I'm attached to my characters, I'm attached to the world, I'm attached to fucking the soundtrack, and all that good shit. The characters, I think I did say the character designs, but the characters themselves are all really, they all stand out really nice. Like, okay, like just like Beidou, and of course like the other characters I mentioned, like my favorites, like, you know, like Mona, Shanling. This is, I guess, like they stand out a lot. They're fucking entertaining, they're cool. All that good shit. The graphics, I almost forgot about the graphics. Genshin's fucking beautiful. That's all I'm gonna say. So Amber needs a buff. She is a 4-star character that plays just like a bad Ganyu, and of course 4-star is gonna be worse than a 5-star. But if Mihoyo ever made a 3-star category of characters, for some reason, Amber would immediately go into that category because she just sucks. The thing is, he doesn't really need that many fixes to make her better as a character. Just make it so she can detonate her E or her elemental skill at any point in time, and make the AoE on her burst bigger. That's really all she needs to be a good character. Other than that, Genshin's character balancing is pretty good. A lot of my favorite games are the typical Souls, like Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 3, all of those good games, Sekiro. I like really well done bosses that challenge me, or bosses that are just executed really nicely. Genshin has none of these. There are bosses that'll challenge you, but it's just something doesn't feel right about them. So I'll just start with Oceanid. Oceanid is probably the most boring fight in the game once you get it down. Like, obviously, okay, in the footage I'm probably gonna be using Ganyu, which trivializes shit, of course, because it's fucking Ganyu, but still. Half the boss fight is just you listening to her dialogue. Mihoyo lazily, they just made the platforms like fall for like certain phases of her fight. It's shit like that. It's really uninspired. It doesn't really add anything to the fight because you still have plenty of room to move around. It's the shitty boss overall. You just fucking fight summons. That's never like a fun thing. That's never been a fun thing in video games, honestly. I can't think of a single video game that's ever done that right, because I don't think there's a way to do that right. Just give me a boss. Just give me a one-on-one boss that I can fight. Doesn't have to be challenging. Just has to be interesting. In Ocean, it is not interesting, especially when she starts talking. Ajdaha, the only complaint I have about him, and this might just be a skill issue on my part, is I don't know if all of his attacks you can dodge through. I've never liked the idea of having to run away from attacks to avoid them, especially in games. If a game provides you with iframes or invincibility frames during dodges, then I would like to think that you can dodge through everything to avoid damage. I'm pretty consistent with my dodges in Genshin, but I feel like for Ajdaha, he just has some moves that don't feel right to dodge. Or maybe, for me at least, they feel impossible to dodge. For example, his ground slam, I think even his tail slam. I don't like this AoE bullshit that they do. It's just like, run out of the AoE circle so you don't get hit. I don't like that shit. That shit's annoying. La Senora is really good, but my issue with her is the mechanics of her fight. She has like she'll make the ground either hot or cold, and obviously you accumulate enough buildup of either the ice or the fire, whatever the fuck they call it in Genshin, then your character will start taking damage, and as far as I know, there's no way to avoid the buildup in the first place. There is a way to remove it, but there's no way to truly avoid it. You're gonna have to like just wait for it to build up and then get rid of it with using these things in the arena, which I think is just annoying. That's about it for her. She's actually a really good boss. I fucking love her soundtrack. Without that, she'd be the best boss in Genshin. There aren't many good bosses in this fucking game, so that's not really a hard thing to accomplish. But okay, this one I'm legally obligated to talk about this one. The Resin. I scripted this one. It's not even fun to shit on this system anymore, but it has to be said. I never liked the stamina system in gacha games. I can't think of a good reason why you'd want players to only be able to play for a certain amount of time based on the amount of resin held. Other games let you play them endlessly, so why are gachas different? I have that written down as a question here, and now it says it's a rhetorical question. Yeah. It's written a while ago and I still agree. I don't know why gacha games do this. I don't know why they have to do this. I've seen some people like say, you know, Mihoyo, they gotta get their money somehow. I don't see that. I don't see that as a justifiable reason. Let's be real. They make plenty of their money off the fucking whales that like fucking pull for the newest 5 stars on their banners and shit. I don't think they're in desperate need of people paying money for resin. Seriously, I never had the need to pay for resin. Just, if I want to play the game endlessly and get burnt out, let me as an individual do that, you know? This is something I haven't seen anyone talk about. Time challenges. I'm not talking about the ones you find scattered throughout the world. I'm talking about the ones you see in domains. For example, when you're farming for artifacts, you will be limited by time. You need to finish killing the enemies. I'm pretty sure it's usually killing the enemies. I don't know if there's any other ones. You need to finish killing the enemies before the time limit expires. If you don't, you fail the challenge and you get nothing. My issue with this is that this sort of system rewards players that already have good artifacts. It rewards players that do the maximum amount of DPS instead of rewarding players that are willing to sit there with their shit artifacts, sit there and farm for whatever amount of time they need. I'm saying this from personal experience. It's annoying. Back when I first started playing the game, I had shitty artifacts and I knew it, and I was just like, I need better artifacts. So I go up to a domain, I'm like, you get different options. You could choose like the lower level domain, or you could choose the higher level one. Of course, me being who I am, I chose a higher level one because that meant I would get better rewards. And I did it, and I was really close to finishing it. But the time limit, I noticed at some point the time limit was not gonna allow me to complete the domain. So I just like gave up. The worst thing you can do in a video game is not reward player skill. And I'm not saying I'm fucking like amazing at the game. It was some like shitty easy domain. I'm just saying, if I want to sit there for 10 minutes straight like some fucking crazy person just to get the 5-star artifact instead of like the stupid 4-star artifacts, then let me do that. This is a minor complaint, not nothing too crazy. Farming in Genshin, killing enemies, getting material, and that kind of stuff. My issue here with killing enemies for material is just that at some point, you know, I every now and then I do like go farm whopper flowers because for some reason every character needs that material. Teleporting everywhere in the world to go kill whopper flowers isn't the most like engaging thing ever. I really wish Mihoyo would add a feature. They would add a domain. You could just select an enemy type and be like, I want to farm this one, and then whenever you're done farming, you can just leave. Now, of course, Mihoyo does have a limit. In the world of Genshin, they have a limit to how much you can farm enemies, because at some point, you will kill all the enemies, and you'll have to wait for them to respawn. That's fine. If they want to keep that system in the game so bad, they can add this domain, this farming domain, and just set a limit on it. It's just a feature that I would like to see in Genshin. It's just something that's convenient. This is another thing that isn't a new complaint, just like Resin. Artifact RNG, go over it real quick. In a game where numbers are so important, it's amazing that Mihoyo hasn't added an option to reroll stats and substats on artifacts yet. Because as of right now, you really need to hope you get an artifact that's a part of the set you want. Then you need to see if the main stat is the stat that's desired. And then you need to see if the 4 substats are decent enough for you to invest in the said artifact. The closest thing we have to rerolling stats is turning in artifacts for another one from a specific set. But there are only 4 sets to choose from right now, for some reason. And this script was written before I even did this. But for the last 2 months, I've been trying to get a decent crit rate headpiece from the Shimenamo's Reminiscence. I've gotten one and it was dog shit. But it's important to remember this is over the span of fucking two fucking months. Of course, I wasn't doing it every day. I was doing it when I could, like after I get the weekly bosses done. And if it wasn't a specific day for farming talent material, I would do that. But I think it's still amazing that for the last 2 months, it could have been more. My best guess is 2 months. I got 1 crit rate headpiece and it was dog shit. I'm just gonna quickly go over the gacha system in Genshin because I have to, just for this video, because I do have a complaint about it. Everyone's already talked about it, but still I have to go over it. Pity for the 5-star character is your 90th pull, but you aren't guaranteed the 5-star banner character. It's a 50-50 chance. And if you don't get the banner character, the next 5-star character is guaranteed to be the banner character. This wouldn't be a bad thing if Genshin wasn't so stingy with Primo Gems. As someone that spent somewhere around $200 on this game, getting Primo Gems is really annoying. 5 stars come out faster than you can save enough for. So if you spend all your summoning material on one 5-star character, let's say you do your 90 pulls, the next 5-star character is gonna come out so fast, you'll have maybe enough for like, my best guess, maybe like 20-30 pulls, maybe even less. Constellations, these kind of go hand in hand with the gacha part. Notifications. So again, getting a 4-star character to Constellation 6 is difficult to do. I'd say it's pretty difficult. For those that don't know, when you get a character duplicate, you're given that character's material to increase their constellation level. Increasing their constellation level makes that character much stronger. The issue here is that 5-star characters cost a stupid amount to fully max out. You can probably look up the numbers yourself. All I'm saying is it's really expensive. Ridiculously expensive. Like this like C6, your 5-star C6, that's some rich nigga shit. That's not that's pretty much drawing the poverty line in the Genshin like hierarchy. The guys with the C6 5-stars are like they're the upper class, and the ones with like fucking like 4 stars at like C6, they're the lower class. Okay, that's just how it is. And finally, these are just some like extra bits of criticism. I wouldn't even use such a grand word as criticism. It's just like some extra complaints from me. Genshin needs a skip dialogue button. It exists for cutscenes, so why not dialogue? You know, there's a lot of dialogue in Genshin. And because there's so much, you're bound to come across some extremely uninteresting dialogue, especially during events. I don't know why they write so much dialogue for events, but they do. And having to skip that, having to like hit my mouse over and over, is fucking crazy. Yeah, add a skip dialogue button. Another thing is increase the amount of artifacts we can use to strengthen other artifacts. So weapons get 20 slots. Like when you're upgrading a weapon, you can put up to 20 other weapons to enhance that weapon, which is cool. First of all, there shouldn't be a limit to it. I personally think there shouldn't be a limit to it. Like, there should be an option to just throw in everything. Just like, seriously, just like throw in everything. I personally think there should be an option to do that. But yeah, back on topic, artifacts, you can only do 6. For some reason, it might be 6 or 5, I don't remember. Is it will say 6 to give them like the benefit of the doubt. Yeah. So I'm just gonna let this footage play out. Some other things to add on to my small complaints is Inazuma introduced some pretty crazy enemies. And I don't mean crazy as in difficult, I mean crazy as in it takes a while to kill them. And I might just be going crazy, or it's maybe because Inazuma is the newest region or something, but I feel like the enemies in Inazuma have much more health than enemies in Liyue and Mondstadt. A lot of them have attacks that can one-shot you, which isn't anything new because there were enemies in Liyue that could one-shot you if you weren't careful. But in Inazuma, it makes it's worse because the enemies also have a lot of health. You can't kill them that fast. Certain enemies can heal themselves. Yeah, it's just a lot of high health. It's artificial difficulty, like into the most like basic generic sense of artificial difficulty. Increased HP, increased damage. Okay, there's our enemy. I couldn't find it like exact numbers for their health. I tried looking, couldn't find it, but I do generally feel like Inazuma enemies tend to have much higher health pools than Liyue or Mondstadt enemies. A good example of this is the Spectre enemies listed as common enemies. So these enemies are in the same class as fucking Hilichurls, but they have the same health, if not more. What's it called? The big guys, I think they call Lawachurls. There's something weird going on here. And also on top of that, they're just way more difficult. They float around everywhere. I'm not sure how you're supposed to get to them without a ranged character. You could blame the player for not having a ranged character, but all I'm saying is this is the exact reason why I keep at least one ranged character in my team. Just stupid shit like this. I think it's stupid. I think it's tedious to fight them. It's not fun. So I was playing Elden Ring recently, and just to compare it to Elden Ring, because they're both open world games. When you find a chest, similarly, like in comparison, they're both similar in that there are different chests to find. There's been like chest designs. You could tell which one has like better shit in them. Usually, most of the time, the difference comes when you actually like pick up the item. Because in Elden Ring, you can get a nice weapon, an Ash of War, which is like you could summon an assistant. You can get like a sorcery. You can get a miracle or incantation. I don't want the Elden Ring fans to kill me. In Genshin, you will always get either a weapon or artifact, some gold or some mora, and some amount of primo gems. It's always the same reward. When you see a luxurious chest, you're always gonna be happy to see it, you know? It's just like, oh, I'm gonna get some good shit. You will never get a decent artifact out of them. Especially once you hit like later in the game where like those artifacts are like just not viable anymore. You'll see those artifacts and you're just like, okay, like I can just feed it to my other artifact. You'll never get anything good. It's never something you want to keep. Weapons, nope. Primo gems, you get 20 fucking primo gems. That's it. And you get some mora. And honestly, it does make exploration a little uninteresting because you're always getting the same shit. It's never different. It's never things you want to keep. It's never things that'll like make you rethink your build. It's never shit like that. And I think that's what separates the rewards in Genshin from like other games. You don't even have to compare it to Elden Ring. You can compare it to anything. This is another one kind of like, it's not really an issue. It's just like, why not kind of thing. You can't find characters out in the world. The only time they appear is if you're doing their quest line or something like that. So say a character like Amber, you're never gonna see her out in the world. And as far as I know, there isn't a single character you could find out in the world of Genshin, which sucks because it makes the world a little less believable. Because these are the only characters you know. These are the only characters with like backstories or like lore to them. And Mihoyo can't even be bothered to like just stick around in the world, like doing their own like thing or something. I think that would make the world of Genshin a lot more, what's it called? There's a word for this. There's a word in writing for this. Believable, something like that.
Genshin also needs a pick up all button, a claim all function, increased resin storage limit, and increased condensed resin storage limit. Exploring the world is worth it for the rewards, but getting the same thing every time starts to become boring. A nice fix would be to add a decent 4-star weapon or 5-star artifacts at random. Some rare chests could have like 100 Primogems and that's it, or you know, other chests could have like a bunch of Mora in it. Just something to make it like, to add some variety so exploring doesn't get boring. Because when you know what to expect while you're exploring, that's what makes exploring boring. Also, side note, I just recently started really exploring Inazuma a little bit, and I also managed to explore a lot of Enkanomiya for the event, and recently I've explored the chasm, and I think Mihoyo did a really good job with the rewards for these areas. It's just that every other chest is like the most boring shit ever, and those are the chests you're gonna be finding most often, so I really think they should find different materials or something to just put into those chests to make them more unique, exciting to find, and surprising. I think those are the most important things you can do when designing this kind of thing into the game. So with all that being said, Genshin is a game that has everything it needs to be a masterpiece, but so many things holding it back from being what it could be. I think a lot of this is attributed to the devs implementing systems or making design choices that are completely out of touch for the most part. An example being the resin system. Genshin is a rare case, I believe. I'm not sure really, but Genshin I do think is a rare case where it is both a mobile game and a PC game without having much differences between the mobile and PC versions. Even on mobile, I think mobile players complain about it too. Resin system is just stupid. It just doesn't need to exist. I don't think there's no need for it to exist. It's not like really a necessity. Seeing it on a PC game is worse than seeing it on mobile, because I don't know anyone who plays games 24/7 on their mobile device as opposed to a PC, or can't ignore the console guys, the guys that also play Genshin on console. It just doesn't feel like a fully fledged game, to be honest. As complete as it is with the soundtrack and animation and all that other stuff, it's just such a strange choice to make. It's like Mihoyo doesn't want Genshin to be the perfect game. They want it to be, I don't know, it's like they want it to be like a mid-game, pretty much. It's like a fucking mid-game. So many things holding it back. And it's sad because I think in the right hands, Genshin could have seriously been at the level of maybe where Elden Ring is now, but maybe not, because of the anime style. Not everyone likes that. It could have been maybe even bigger, or regarded as an amazing game. A lot of people have gripes with it, and they have gripes with it for very good reason. Other examples are, it's like the directing or whatever of the game seems to be confused. One moment you're being handheld with the quest lines and the puzzles and all that stuff, where Paimon is just like telling you, I don't have any footage here, so I couldn't get it because I couldn't find it, but Paimon, she'll tell you like what to do next. She'll directly tell you in the dialogue what to do next, and they'll even highlight things in blue for you, which is, I know this because I always read that shit, because whenever I skip that dialogue, that's what I'm looking for, which I guess helps, but I do think the main purpose of it is to handhold. And that's great and all, because Genshin is supposed to appeal to like the wider audience, the more casual fan base. There's the weird design choice of making the game pretty difficult, I think, in my opinion, because I already have some trouble with enemies on PC, like straight up. I do play the game casually, so my brain is turned off, to be honest, while I'm playing the game. But still, I can't imagine being like a mobile player, because I've tried playing on mobile before, and the controls just don't feel right. And of course it's limited because it's a mobile device. But yeah, you know, going from like hand-holding the player, like it's their first game ever, to throwing them into a combat situation, like they've been playing games their whole life, it's just such a strange, I don't know, what's the word? Polarity. It's inconsistent, and I think Mihoyo should be working on this, because it's just so weird. Because besides combat, Genshin holds your hand as much as possible, and I truly think that's something that needs to be addressed. If Mihoyo really wants Genshin to be the best game it can be, I do think the things in this video are like, I'm hoping everything I said is like valid, or can at least be understood by everyone watching. I would play her. 5-star outfit. Oh, 5 star. She's a 3-star character.